Hi, everybody. Welcome back to reserve seating. Oh, you want me to do that over?
No, I just like when you
I
start
kind
and
of did a whip. So hold on. All right, I'll start over. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to reserve seating. We are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Patrick Bromley. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah. So we're doing a flip on last year's Mean Genes, and we're going to talk about movies that Gene Siskel liked. And we're calling it Good Genes. And we are going to talk about three movies today. The first being 1991's Harley-Davidson and hold on, let me try this. Harley-Davidson and the Marlboro Man. But before we get into our takes on Harley-Davidson and hold on, Marlboro Man, I'm going to read you what Gene Siskel said
yes.
in his three-star review. Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson star in an offbeat, genial Western parody. I don't know if it's parody that has some surprisingly effective, low key humor. Director Simon Windsor of TV's Lonesome Dove takes time out of the bank robbery plot to give us some quiet time with the two oddballs who are real softies underneath their bravado. By the way, I think I'm the only critic who likes this picture. 3 stars.
Nope. No, you're not. No, you're not, Gene. No, you're
It
not.
took 30 years, but two other critics have revealed themselves.
So like 5 minutes into this movie, I'm watching the opening credits, and it's of course Mickey Rourke waking up next to this naked woman. Bon Jovi's "Wanted Dead or Alive" is playing. He mounts his motorcycle, heads off into the wilderness of the highway wilderness, and just a murderer's row of the best character actors' names come up on the screen, and I'm just like, is this the best movie I've ever seen? Is this about to be the greatest movie of all time?
I've seen the trailer for this movie more times than I've seen the movie because I used to always program the trailer when I would do like marathons and stuff. And the trailer has this great like Waylon Jennings voiceover where he's just like Harley and Marlboro. And I wish that guy narrated the movie. I wish he was
Yeah.
just like, well, these boys are in a pickle now. I have been a fan of this movie since 1991. It is very goofy. It's like pseudo futuristic Western slash Butch and Sundance slash Mickey Rourke truly has said to the press that this movie broke him. This was the moment where he realized, like, oh, I hate doing this. I don't like this movie. I'm not happy doing this. I need to change something in my career. And you can kind of tell, but I was texting with Adam and like I'm of the mind that Don Johnson sensed that and just upped his charisma to make up for it.
Yeah, so this was my first time watching it. It's on this list that I have. It's not a list that I have in real life, but it's in my head
Okay.
of like 90s action movies that I've always meant to see but have never seen. It's with Free Jack and Eve of Destruction and Run with Patrick Dempsey. It's
You're
like
just
on,
naming movies I like.
yeah. Um, and I gotta be honest, I wish it stayed on the mythical list. I was not that big of a fan of this.
No.
I wanted this to be about 50% more She's My Cherry Pie and about 50% less Mickey Rourke moping because there's nothing more of a bummer than a sad alpha.
I took it as him playing it like trying to be like cool, detached guy. I didn't think about it as him being miserable.
I
Mickey
don't
Rourke
know.
doesn't have to try to be cool. Mickey Rourke
I mean,
just
that's a
is
good point.
cool.
Yeah.
One thing I like about Mickey Rourke, and I think it also is sort of at his detriment, is that I think he wears his emotions on his sleeves so much that
Yeah.
like whatever he's feeling on that day on set, you can read in his performance.
Yeah.
And I, that's why he's so good sometimes, and that's why like he frustrates me so much, like when he's kind of doing mumble mouth or he's just kind of low energy or like sad. Sometimes it works like in The Wrestler or something, but like this is supposed to be Butch and Sundance, and like I don't, and it's a bummer to watch him in this. And I like what Patrick said about Don Johnson kind of overcompensating on his
Yeah.
behalf, because this made me feel really bad about kind of making fun of him, or not making fun of him, but criticizing him for the hot spot with like saying like he wasn't a lead. Because oh my God, is he a lead? Like he can really deliver in this kind of movie. I agree with Siskel in the sense that it's an interesting take on these two types of characters where they're sort of romantics in a way, and I don't know. I just think it works so much better with hold on, let me Marlboro Man.
And I would agree that it kind of runs out of steam as it gets to the end, like in terms of, I guess the see, I know I don't even know if I agree with myself on that one.
Yeah, don't
I'm
concede on
trying,
my
Adam. I'm
behalf.
trying to I'm trying to meet you. I'm trying to meet you halfway, buddy, and I can't.
Don't. I'm the
Skyscraper,
asshole on this one. Yeah.
skyscraper, helicopter, Tom Sizemore falling out a window.
Yes.
This needs to be stone cold, and it's not.
Oh, I would put it in the same ballpark.
So this is a good point then. What's the difference between this and Stone Cold then?
Stone Cold feels biker dangerous.
Okay.
This feels not dangerous. Like, I don't know. This
Uh,
feels like it wouldn't even be the B movie on a Last Boy Scout double bill. It would be like the C movie on a triple.
I
okay.
don't disagree with you, and I feel like you're just selling me on it harder.
Okay, Patrick, as the heavy action expert, would you call this a particularly well directed film?
It's messy. I like Simon Windsor. I think he has energy and personality. It's not his best directed movie. No.
Adam, as a Free Willy fan, were you disappointed in Simon Windsor's direction in this film?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really even like. I feel like Free Willy's directed by God more than Simon Windsor, so it makes a lot of sense when Siskel points out that it's directed by TV's Lonesome Dove, because you could totally tell that it's like this sort of wagon trail buddy movie.
Mhm.
But I just wish that Mickey Rourke was happier.
This was my favorite of the it wasn't my favorite of the three movies, but it was my favorite that Gene Siskel liked it because it was the most surprising of the three that
Yeah.
like Gene Siskel likes this movie.
Okay, so our next movie is Flesh and Bone, directed by Steve Kloves of Harry Potter fame later. And Gene said, an uneven but compelling personal drama of a man coming to grips with his violent past. Dennis Quaid plays a wandering soul in Texas, stocking condom and candy machines while avoiding any deep personal relationship. Threatening the status quo is a chance meeting with another runaway from the past, a woman separated from her husband, played by Meg Ryan. This is the second film from writer-director Steve Kloves, who made such an auspicious debut with the Fabulous Baker Boys. This film is not at that level, but if you stick with the story until the arrival of a mysterious character played by James Caan, you will be engaged. 3 stars. So this was my first viewing of Flesh and Bone. Was it either of yours?
Mine too.
Okay. Patrick, why don't you start out? What do you think of Flesh and Bone?
I'm a big fan of this movie. I won't bury the lead. I'll say this is my favorite of the three that we're talking about. I like a noir western. I really like the performances from Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. They had acted together a few times before. DOA is not great. Interspace is great. Flesh and Bone is maybe like somewhere in the middle. I think it has like all this mood and atmosphere to burn. I think it's got a great supporting role from James Caan, a great supporting role from Gwyneth Paltrow. And it's basically just the four of them bumming around in this movie that a lot of people probably won't have the patience for, but I really like this movie.
Yeah, this was my first time with it, and I'm probably the first like hour or so, I'm just watching it and thinking like, oh my God, a movie for adults, like a great just movie about wayward adults. And it's like, oh, it's like a fairly decent, like kind of like programmer of the day. When my boy Jimmy shows up though, that's when it really, not to say that he injects the movie with life and it didn't have it before, but I think he like puts a lot of it in context, like a lot of the Quaid recluse, like when it's Quaid and Khan together, Quaid really starts to shift into another gear. And I really enjoyed that part of it.
Well, guys, I didn't love Flesh and Bone.
You're the mean Gene.
I
Yeah,
am
what
the
is
mean
going
Gene.
on?
I had the opposite reaction. I was into the first hour
Wow,
a
okay.
lot more than the second hour. I want to point out the stuff that I did like the most. I think that the the characters are really interesting in the beginning with Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid. I like Dennis Quaid's sort of he's a Don Johnson type who can really kind of turn up the charm, but I like how taciturn he is and just kind of
Yeah.
haunted he is. I think he's really good at playing that. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is such a discovery coming out of this movie. Like she was in Hook before, but it was like a really brief performance, and like this I had not seen, and I'm filling in like some gaps or just like revisiting a lot of like 90s Paltrow over the past 12 months. It seems it makes me miss that version of Gwyneth Paltrow. I think she's like really really good. My issue is that, and I like him normally, I think James Caan, the choice he makes to how he plays it, it's not big or mythical enough. Like this guy needs to be larger than life in a way. I feel like for it to have the effect that he does on Dennis Quaid, like I'm almost expecting it to be like meeting Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, and like we just get sort of grouchy James Caan. So I don't know. I mean, I will say though that in Gene's review, he says that this is sort of like a step down from Fabulous Baker Boys. I think it's about the same level. I think both movies have a lot of good things in them, but they don't quite work. More for different reasons. But like this one has a similar like the air goes out of the balloon for me.
I think it's fascinating that Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan made this movie together at a time where they were married and Meg Ryan was America's sweetheart and all these romantic
Yeah,
comedies. And clearly, this is her trying to be in a different mode.
yeah,
And they were, this beloved couple in Hollywood, and they make this movie that's almost punishing you for wanting to go see a Meg Ryan Dennis Quaid movie where they're together. It's like, oh,
yeah.
this isn't what I came to a Meg Ryan movie for. It reminds me of when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt made By the Sea. But this is a better movie.
All right, so our final movie that we're talking about is Dumb and Dumber, another movie that's surprising that Mr. Siskel enjoyed. So our flick of the week is Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey's latest Jerry Lewis film, and like the Jerrys of the 50s, he grows on you. The script is miles ahead of his debut picture, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, though not as consistently entertaining as The Mask. Oh, the distinctions a critic can make. Critic humor. The writing of the stupid jokes is often very smart and sometimes edgy too. Jim Carrey's humor and movies such as Dumb and Dumber are made for the early teen audience, lots of bodily function gags, which make this positive review tantamount to self-loathing. I don't get that, but okay. But you cannot deny a laugh, and Dumb and Dumber has plenty. So this movie's a touchstone for me. It's a movie I grew up with. I was one of the early teens delighted by bodily function gags.
Mm-hmm.
It holds up completely for me. I think it's really funny, and I want to get your guys' opinion more than I want to hear my own. But I just will say, like, I will give so much credit to almost like any road movie. I just love that
What's the best
subgenre,
part about it? Yeah.
and I think it's just so good. And Jeff Daniels kind of steals the movie. And if he wasn't as funny as he is, I don't think Jim Carrey would be as effective as he is.
100%. I know this movie backwards. This is easily my favorite of that first Jim Carrey run. I think the movie comes by its gross out gags pretty honestly. I think that it is the right amount of story for a movie like this, the right amount of setup payoff to satisfy idiots like me. There are easy jokes in it, but I think it goes the extra mile for a little bit more charm than it needed to in a lot of ways. Again, I was surprised rewatching it for the first time in a number of years that there wasn't a lot of any homophobia, there wasn't really
Right.
anything, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything easy like that in there.
Yeah, I think it gets a lot of mileage just from them being too dense to understand situations. Like it's not even mean spirited or anything like that. It's just like the one that I keep thinking of where it's a small thing, but it makes me laugh every time is when he's having the snowball fight with Jeff Daniels is having the snowball fight with Lauren Holly. and then like he just kind of does like the put 'em up dukes thing and stuff, and it's just like I just think it's funny that like he thinks that this is a natural reaction to like an escalation of it. So
I think the key difference here between this and a lot of movies like it is that this movie loves them
yeah,
and wants the best for them, despite them.
I grew up obviously with like the theatrical version of this movie, and I know that there's an unrated version, and I've heard that the unrated version includes some stuff that almost like kind of ruins Harry and Lloyd a bit, where they seem mean in certain ways. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to watch that. I just want to watch the theatrical cut. And I think that Dumb and Dumber 2, I remember there's like scenes where they're like pushing guys and or women into bushes and things like that, and it's like something that seems so out of character for them.
I watched this during 94 week slash month
Yeah,
and didn't laugh as much as I did in 94, but I still laughed enough to like this movie. You know, like I like Jim Carrey, I like Jeff Daniels. There are enough small laughs and then a couple of really big laughs. And for me, the really big laughs are like stupid things like Jim Carrey making the most annoying sound you've ever heard. Like that to me is so funny. Or even like the soup de jour joke.
mm,
It's like it's a stupid joke that you have to be like a little bit smart to laugh at. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate that the movie isn't just pee pee and poo poo and Guy fall down. I have nothing against Guy fall down. I will laugh all
It's
day at Guy
solid
fall down.
pee and poo poo and guy fall down stuff. Like it's good material for. I mean, it's one of the best poo poos of all time.
But really, between this and Kingpin and There's Something About Mary, the Fairleys were on like a run.
yeah,
And I don't know that they've made a movie I've liked since, except maybe Fever Pitch, which is like
yeah.
way outside of their usual brand of comedy, you know, but there's no denying like the influence that this movie and that they had on comedy, theatrical comedy for 10 years.
Yeah, it feels like they got their meanness out of their system with like Me, Myself, and Irene, and then it became like Schmaltz Fest for a little while,
Yeah.
which isn't bad because I do like Fever Pitch, which is a feat because it stars Jimmy Fallon. So I also want to give a shout out to an unsung movie from 2003. I think the prequel Dumb and Dumber is actually really
Oh wow.
funny and shares a lot of the DNA of it's not as good as Dumb and Dumber, but that sweetness and like people wanting the best for them is part of that. So I do think it's a little bit underrated.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that this movie stops long enough for Jim Carrey to have that speech where he's like, I'm tired of being nobody, I'm tired of having nobody, like, and doesn't necessarily undercut it with like, and then a truck drives by and splashes water on him, is a testament to them liking the characters, is a testament to our investment in them as characters. It works.
And also, you can't just as like somebody who kind of studied comedy at one point in time. That sounds douchey, but the what makes a joke work, and sometimes you can't even explain it. And like, there's one where it's like he walks out of the convenience store and just sees two guys drinking big gulps, and he's just like, "Big gulps, huh? All right, well, see you later." And it's like, why is that funny? But it is funny. Yeah. So, what order would you put these in from your favorite to least favorite of the three?
Patrick, you go first.
All right, let's start with the most unpopular opinion. I'm gonna go Flesh and Bone, Harley and Marlboro, Dumb and Dumber, but they're all three good.
Hey, Rob, what about you?
I'm going just yeah, no, I'm going Dumb and Dumber, Marlboro, Flesh and Bone.
I'm gonna go Dumb and Dumber, Flesh and Bone, Harley, Marlboro.
Wow. This might be the most like sort of not divisive, but the sort of most out of sync we've kind of ever been with a set of movies like this. This is historic in an interesting kind of way, isn't it?
Flesh
I'm not often the
and
case.
Bone.
So we will be back next week with special guest Joel Edmiston, and we will be doing a mall movie time machine where we will go back into the past, select a mall theater, tell you what's playing there, and then we each decide through process of elimination if we only had one movie that we could go see during that trip, which movie we would see. So it's a fun little game. We want you to play along with us as we do it. So Patrick, thank you again for joining us. This was great.
Thank you.
And until next time.
We got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off.